Another thing I wanted to share with you is about scapular stabilization and shoulders, because shoulders are a place that we often get injured, and I actually did that recently as well, so this is something I've had to learn through my own body. But again, when we're kind of doing this sort of thing, or we're too tight in our upper shoulder muscles, which this guy doesn't have, but we can imagine that you have all these trapezius muscles that go down and then down. But because we have a lifestyle where we're sort of like this a lot, everything is really strong up here and it's weak down here. And so that leads you to pull everything tight into these rotator cuff muscles and pinch this rotator cuff. And it can lead to a lot of shoulder injuries, it can lead to neck problems, again, just because of the imbalance of the overly strong and the weaker, more stretched out.
Yeah, so we work a lot on building the strength of the opposing muscle groups that are tight. So if the upper trapezius, they tend to be a kind of a primary culprit in this shoulder stuff. So they're up here, they get tight. So we want to work on actually strengthening the lower trapezius, which goes from the underneath side of the, or the outside of the scapula down towards the spine. And so it helps to draw the shoulder blades down as opposed to up and forward, which gets us into trouble. I find that a lot of people don't even realize that their scapula, their shoulder blades move. So we spend a lot of time just kind of doing awareness of moving the shoulder blades up, down, forward and back, and then elevation, and that's going to be like a more happening in the scapula, the shoulder blades. But the other thing that's really important is that people don't really realize that what is called the shoulder girdle. So that's the clavicle, the shoulder joint itself, and the shoulder blade. So if this is all sitting forward, we need to move it all back. So we need to open the chest, open the shoulders, and strengthen the backside. So we're going to look at scapular stability on Heather here. So Heather, if you can just relax your arms down by your side, and then I'd like you to go into a poor posture, very rounded shoulders, yeah, kind of shoulders up,
Hyperextend my back, anterior head carriage.
So you can see she's got a lot of compression there. The shoulders are rounded forward, and there's not much activity strength-wise happening here, and there's a lot of shortening of muscles here. Okay, so then what we want to work on now is getting a lengthening through the crown of the head, and then bringing the shoulder blades. You want to think about them coming towards each other, but you don't want to really pinch them together. You just bring them towards each other and then set them down the rib cage while you're creating this lifting through the spine. So you create a lot of length here and stability here, without overcorrecting. So sometimes people will pinch their shoulder blades, so I want you to overcorrect, pinch and let your ribs flare a little bit. So they over pinch, and then they can overextend in the low back, and then it's creating a whole different problem. So we just kind of want to have a nice opening of the collarbones and setting of the shoulder blades.
So one of my favorite scapular stabilization exercises is called the waiter, and you can use anything. I have a 3-pound weight here, but I've used like jars of beans at home or whatever. But you want to basically hold it up like a waiter and externally rotate your hand, twist it back like you're carrying a tray, and then really feel down in your shoulder. So remember what we just talked about is pulling the shoulder blade kind of in and down. I can really feel that here without it too heavy of a weight. So where I still am making mistakes is I'll put it up and I can feel my whole shoulder kind of come out and this come up down here. And so I really have to think about bringing it back and pulling. So you should feel this part hard, the kind of latissimus dorsi, when you're doing this, and then really keeping your shoulder blade down. And then you can just hold it, hold it for 10, 20 seconds a few times a day, and you'll feel that holding down and in.
So one of the simpler exercises to do is just standing, so you're working on your posture muscles, but to help engage or to really focus on the scapular stability is to have your hands in a position like this, like you're holding a platter, and then you're going to open the collarbones and then soften the shoulders down the spine. And then from there, you'll go into a little external rotation of the shoulders and then just coming out of it. Okay, so if, Heather, if you'll turn to the side. So then here, she's working her rotator cuff muscles, so the external rotators, and then she's also working her scapular stabilizers. So you're getting the lower trapezius kicking in, a little bit of the serratus anterior here kicking in, and trying to keep the upper trapezius quiet. And then from there, progression could be simply to just take your arms up to a goalpost position. So from here, this is going to be more challenging now because the upper trapezius will want to take over. So you've got to really keep drawing the shoulder blades down as the arms come overhead and then coming back down. Okay, so the scapula actually does a little down and forward, and then it comes back. So one more time, the shoulder blade comes down and kind of forward on the rib cage, and then coming back, and now do it the wrong way with the upper trapezius kicking in too much. So this is what we often see as a mistake with overhead work, is that
anything that we're kind of.
yeah, anything that the upper trapezius is taking over.
And then doing all that while keeping your ribs in.
Yep.
So when we cue that, how would you cue that for the ribs?
So yeah, then you would want to try to keep the ribs, so the ring of the ribs should stay stacked right on the ring of the pelvis. So as the arms go overhead, somebody might not have the flexibility, so they're only going to go as far as they can without losing the connection here or without losing the scapular stability there.